Welcome back to Afternoon Garage. Today we're going to be working on the gauges. As I talked about last week, really want to have some functioning instruments before I fire that engine up so I can get some data from it, find out if it's running right once I get it going. So these are kind of cloudy, some of them are kind of rusty, and well, some just don't work. So anyway, let's get them out, put them on the bench, tear them apart, get them tested, refinish, and back in the car. Alright, here's my old instruments, how they came. You can see there's a bunch of rust all down in there. They're all cloudy, and believe it or not, but the clock is actually functioning, but I don't really think it's moving anywhere. So gonna have to want to take these out. I want to put a boost gauge in here. So I know the 930s had a boost gauge right in the tack there. You can see that's all yellowed and it's all chipped. So I think I'll pull these out of here, get the bezels off, do the maintenance I need to do, and paint the trim rings, put them back in. We'll see how easy that's going to be for me. And you can see all the wires that are connected to that. So I'm going to have to label these and take good photos of them. And that's a lot of wires. And I think I'll just be doing one gauge at a time, along with turning the key on and seeing actually what they do. So when I put it back in, well, it pretty much does the same thing than when I took it out. Alright, really easy to get this out. Hopefully I can get it back in. Now I noticed on all of these, I was looking for wiring diagrams for the back of these. It's kind of labeled here. It says there's a plus, I guess that's that terminal, and then there's a minus down here. And there's something that says G. I think G is like the signal wire. At least it is on the tack. As you can see, there's a bunch of rust down here. Of course, that's no good either. So that's pretty much the main reason of taking this apart, is there's kind of a halo around here, rust problem, and actually this thing worked actually fine, so I'm not going to have to do any troubleshooting on it, but well, let's get it apart. So the first thing to do is remove the little rubber piece here, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to start prying around the side of the bezel here. You can see just rock the screwdriver back and forth. Some of these bezels are really sucked up against the housing here, so it's really not that bad. So you can get a screwdriver underneath it and pry it out. You want to take your time. Probably something I need to do off camera. I'm going to make several passes at this, so I'll go around and then make one full loop, and then go around it again, and should come off at that point. There we go. Alright, so this took me, I don't know, 20-25 minutes to take out. So you can see I didn't do too much damage to it. It can be re-crimped. This glass is kind of hazy, and it is glass. So I'm going to use a window cleaner. I know they tell you not to use window cleaner and this kind of thing, but since it is glass, should be able to clean it right up with some glass cleaner. Looks really good, so we'll put it someplace where it can't get smudged. Try not to touch any of this in here. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll put this in a safe place, put a towel over it or something like that, and we'll be working on these parts here. Okay, one thing about this is you want to be able to get this back on. So in my experience, what you kind of need to do is take a little bit of the crimp out here. This is these are non-serrated edges. This is just a kind of a flat, smooth edge here. So what you kind of want to do is just kind of go along the length of it and just flatten that out a little bit. That way, when you get this painted, and you get it put on, that was the uncrimped area there. That way, when you get this painted, you won't be doing this to a freshly painted part. Also kind of smooths out all the screwdriver marks here. All right, we got these two parts ready to paint here. So one thing to note is that, even with good pressure on your spray gun, if you go to paint these things, they're just gonna blow away. Especially this one here. See, that's not good. So what I did was, I took some staples, and I bent them outwards, some little U-shaped staples, and made it so they kind of hold the part captive there. Just like that, so it won't move around. Now you can hit it with as much paint as you want, and hopefully they won't go anywhere. So another coat, let it dry. The one thing I want to do is I want to test this thing before I go crimp the top on, especially since I found an instrument that was actually had a broken solder joint inside. So what I've done here is basically I just captured ground and powered it up here. So we're going to look at the temp right here. And here I have a 100 ohm resistor. So we're going to connect it across the input. And there you go, about 230 degrees there. So this gauge also goes all the way down to 0 when disconnected. Let's try the pressure. Okay, there's the pressure. You can see without any input, this one's just the opposite. The needle is pegged. So we're going to use that same 100 ohm resistor. There you go, it looks about 65, 70, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it looks like this instrument's actually working just fine. Of course, when it's grounded, it's 0. So yeah, I think I can put the bezel on and I'll move on to the next instrument. Yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good. Got a little smudge on the face there. But, yeah, wow, no dust back there. Ready to throw this in. All right, here's the difference between both of these tachometers. This is what I took out. Of course, you can see it's got an aluminum thing in the middle of the dial. And this is kind of more the sports style. This is what I've got in there. I don't know why that one was in there. I think this may be for an early car. All right, I got the speedo gauge out and kind of hooked it up, and I have the trigger wire going to ground. So you can see the needle kind of bounces there. I'm gonna try to not get my signal generator out because most people don't have one of those. But I think in the meantime, I'll refinish the face, and you can see it's one of the worst ones of all. It has rust all around on all sides of it, and this is plastic, and it's also been wiped with something other than a microfiber cloth, and it's pretty nasty. So I'm probably gonna have to take the car buffer and buff that out, but that's okay. But yeah, let's get it apart, get it finished, and then we'll hook up the signal generator and see if we can simulate 60 miles an hour. Looks really good. Okay, here's that speedo. So now to hook this up here, we're going to use the plus and the minus, and this is the pulse input. This is an output to some kind of module in there that actually tells when the EGR needs to have service. I believe it's every 30 or 60,000 miles. We're not going to be messing with that. We're just going to be hooking up the plus, the minus, and the pulse input. I'm going to use the signal generator here. I'm going to kind of vary the frequency. With this, I can vary the frequency, and we should see a change in how fast we're going here. So we'll kind of set it here at I don't know, 50 hertz, and then hit the power supply. See what happens. All right. Looks like we got 30 miles an hour here. As you can see, this is kind of going up 1 hertz at a time. So it looks like it's working pretty well. One thing we want to make sure is that the trip odometer works, which it looks like it's counting up. And then actually the main odometer here. So right now we're at 230 hertz. So about 260 hertz for full tilt. Well, we really want to kind of make sure that this number 2 here changes. And that'll tell us if our main odometer is working. And there it goes. So you can see it's going from 72 to 73. So it looks pretty good. I think I'm going to put this back in the car, and well, the schematic's there on the screen, so you do have to add a diode and a resistor there, just to make sure to pull it to ground, because I think that this thing applies its own power, and well, when you have this, they kind of butt up against each other. So resistor and a diode will fix that. And you know what? About time to put this back in the car. Well, now those instruments look pretty good, huh? They function well too. I tested every one of them. Now I didn't test, what the ranges were, or maybe what they're supposed to be, but make sure that they are functional. That's going to be important when I fire that engine up. One thing to note here is these bezels. I know that some people use kind of a crimp tool to be able to uncrimp them and seal them back up again. And well, those channel locks with the tape, that worked pretty good. I didn't make any marks on it that I can ever see, and well, I'm happy with them. So now the next step is to get the engine and transmission back in the car. Engine is bolted up to the transmission finally, and about ready to go back in. And these gauges are going to tell us everything we need to know about how it's running. I said when I got this car, I got it about 1.5 years ago, and I said I'd have it done before the end of that summer, and well, here we are, another summer. I don't really think I'm going to be able to have it finished this summer. These cars are incredibly complicated. I have a whole bunch of yard work I'm doing this year, and I'm pulling stumps out of my yard. Doing a little walkway work. That all takes time away from this project. So I'll get back on it, hopefully kind of get it done, and want to get this thing off the lift before fall time. Maybe drive it around a little bit. And hey, if you got anything out of this, give me a like and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching.